Hello everyone, my name is Zach, and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Do you want to retire early and have a 100% chance of success? A 100% chance of never running out of money in retirement? Well, I ran the numbers for you, and so based on historical data, this is how much you need to have invested, and this is how much you need to withdraw in order to have a 100% historical chance of success of never running out of money. First off, we need to talk about how long you are going to live, all right? So I have no idea how long you're going to live, and it can vary very drastically among us based on so many factors, okay? But we're gonna have to use some averages here. I looked up the average life expectancy of Americans, and according to the Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC, in 2020, it actually dropped a little bit. Okay, we probably know why that happened. But in 2020, the average life expectancy was 77 years old. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually round that up to age 80, because depending on if you are male or female, depending on your lifestyle, depending on so many other kind of factors, it can determine how long you are going to live. And so I'm gonna go ahead and round that up to a nice age of 80. So this is how we're gonna break this down. So everyone that's retiring at a certain decade, it's gonna be like 30, 40, 50, or 60, and they're going to have a life expectancy of 80. And so their portfolio has to last that many years. So if you retire at age 30, that means you have 50 years until your age 80. And so you have a 50-year retirement. It's 40, then it's 40 years. Age 50, then a 30-year retirement. Age 60, and a 20-year retirement. So I ran the numbers on all of these scenarios for all of those retirement timeframes. And then of course, we have to know how much you're going to need to spend in your retirement. And in order to come up with this number, I'm just going to use the average household spending in the United States. So we're going to try to use everything to be as average as possible so it can apply to as many people as possible. According to the BLS, the average American household spending is $61,334, and that was in 2020. We all know that the government statistics are usually behind when it comes to coming out with these numbers. So you could probably find more recent numbers with private organizations, but at least we're being consistent here with the life expectancy and the average spending. So those are going to be our requirements: living till age 80 and spending $61,334 per year. And I can already tell by the spending that we're going to need more than $1 million in order to come up with a 100% success rate. But what's funny is that I did make another video where I explained that you definitely do not need $1 million in order to retire early, but more on that later. If we were developing a basic financial independence goal, we would probably be following the 25 times your annual expense rule, also known as the 4% rule. And so if we were to follow the 4% rule, how much would we need in order to retire based on that average spending? Well, if we take $61,334 and we multiply it by 25, we can find out that it is $1,533,350. So if you follow the 4% rule, that's how much it says that you're going to need in order to retire. Now, of course, while that is a pretty good general rule of thumb, if we have someone retiring at 30 and we have someone retiring at 60, it really doesn't make sense that they would have the same number, that they would both be utilizing the 4% withdrawal rule. You're going to see that in the actual data when we run the numbers. Another really popular rule of thumb that everyone should be using, okay, this applies to everyone, is hitting the like button on this video. I think it's a pretty cool rule of thumb, and if you're enjoying the video so far, just stay tuned because we have the real calculations coming up, and that's the most fun part. But first, we have to make things even with the portfolios that they're going to be using. So the investment portfolios, we're going to have to use a certain asset allocation. And for the asset allocation example, I'm going to be using 75% US stocks and 25% US bonds. So an index fund portfolio consisting of 75% stocks and 25% bonds. And there's a good reason why I'm going to be using that asset allocation mix. That's because the 4% withdrawal rule, when it was published in the Trinity study, it found that this asset allocation had the highest chance of success over a 30-year time period. And that happened to be 98% based on the data that was originally analyzed in the Trinity study. And I'm going to be using F.I.R.E calc. So F.I.R.E calc is cool because it has this investigation tab that allows you to investigate how much money you need in order to have a certain percentage chance of success. And so I changed that to 100% chance of success. And so that's going to see, based on our spending, how much do we need in a portfolio to last a certain amount of years based on 100% chance of success with historical data. So here is the data from F.I.R.E calc. So I'm going to go ahead and enter in the spending of $61,334. All right, and then I just put the portfolio, the 4% withdrawal rule portfolio. All right, and we're going to start with 20 years. Okay, so that's the one retiring at 60. So I'm not going to change anything with other income and spending. I'm going to assume that they are retiring today, so I don't need to change that. And then for the spending model, I'm going to put that inflation is going to be based on the CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. And then for the portfolio, I have to change it to 75%. So right there you can see 75% equities and 25% 5% bonds. Okay, and then we're not going to have any other kind of changes. And then the investigate tab, this is important. So we're going to have, given a success rate, determine how much we need for our portfolio. So we want to have 100% success based on historical data. And we need to know how much of a starting portfolio value we're going to need to have that success. So let's go ahead and run the numbers. So based on 20 years, we need a portfolio of $1.3 million, almost $1.4 million. Based on 30 years, we need a portfolio of $1.6 million, almost $1.7 million if you round it up. For a 40-year retirement, we are going to need $1.8 million. And then for a 50-year retirement, we are going to need $1.9 million. So those are the numbers that you're going to need in order to have a 100% chance of success based on historical data. Now let me read off to you the initial withdrawal rates, okay, because this is really going to help put it into perspective. But for that, I'm going to have to look right off the iPad. Here we go. Okay, so this is important because we can apply that initial withdrawal rate to pretty much any amount of spending in any amount of portfolio. So if you want to have a 50-year retirement period and you withdraw 3.2% of your starting portfolio value, then you have 100% historical annual success. That's how it's going to work. For our example, if you were 40 and you had a 40-year retirement period, that is 3.38%. If you were age 50 and you had a 30-year retirement period, then you needed 3.63%. If you were 60 and you only had a 20-year retirement period, then your withdrawal rate was all the way up to 4.46%. So you can see the difference between someone retiring at age 30 and someone retiring at age 60, the significant difference in how much they can withdraw from their portfolio, 3.2% versus 4.46%. So this really begs the question here. I want to know from you in the comments below, what age do you plan on retiring? What age do you plan on becoming financially independent? Okay, so let me know in the comments below. I want to see how long you expect your retirement to be. But this also really begs the question here is, do you really need this much of a net worth? Do you really need this much investments in order to retire early, in order to become financially independent? And generally speaking, I think the answer is, I don't think so. So I'm leaning more towards no than a yes here. And there are several reasons for that. Okay, so I'm just going to go over them very quickly. I don't necessarily think you need as high of a net worth, even on that level of spending, in order to become financially independent, in order to retire for a very long time. Here's why. So first off, the CPI, or the inflation rate that is published by the government, I don't think is necessarily going to match your own personal inflation rate. Your personal inflation rate can be more or less. The CPI is just an average of a basket of goods and services. You might not utilize all of those services or all of those products in the same manner that the CPI does, how they adjust for it. Secondly, I don't necessarily think that you should be using a constant spending model. I don't think that necessarily you will be using a constant spending model if you're living off of your investments. Naturally, if there is a significant market downturn, you're probably going to somewhat reduce your spending a little bit if you are living off of your investments. This is just going to happen by default. It's going to be very hard to withdraw the same amount of money when your investments are down by 20 or 30% as compared to when your investments were up 10 or 20%. You're probably not going to have a constant spending level. You're probably going to make a small adjustment for market downturns. And then also, this assumes that you'll never earn any outside money again, which again, I think is very highly unlikely. Most likely you are going to earn at least some money, even if it's a small amount, doing something. You're probably going to still earn a little bit of money over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so that also, I think, can be taken into account that when you earn that money, you can spend that money rather than withdrawing it from your portfolio. And therefore, you can keep your withdrawal rate slightly lower sometimes. And then another good reason is that you probably will get some kind of Social Security. If you meet the basic requirements for Social Security, you're probably going to get some. Even if it's not as high as what the Social Security payments are now, it's probably not going to go away completely. And so if you are retiring, even if it's in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, you're probably going to get some kind of Social Security, which was not accounted for with this 100% chance of success. And so all of those reasons combined, I don't necessarily think you even need to shoot for 100% chance of success based on historical withdrawals. What you do need to shoot for is another video that I made on explaining why you don't even need $1 million to retire in many circumstances. So if you haven't watched that video already, please make sure you check out that video, okay? It's gonna pop up right next to me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com, and I hope to see you next time.